Kentucky, here for another episode of Miss Kentucky Proud. Today's episode is all about aquaculture. And aquaculture is just the farming of fish and vegetables in the water. Pretty simple, right? We're actually out at a largemouth bass farm in Cox Creek, Kentucky, and we're going to be showing you guys around, give you an inside look into what it's like to farm fish, and show you everything we can from farm to table. So I brought a friend out with me today. This is Angela Caporelli. She works with me at the Kentucky Department of Agriculture, and she is our aquaculture expert. Angela, what can you tell us about aquaculture in Kentucky?
Well, thanks, Alex. Aquaculture in Kentucky started probably about 25 years ago because we had this awesome distiller's grains, which was the byproduct of the bourbon industry. And we thought, well, what can we do with all this? Because it was a waste product. So the smart people that we have at Kentucky State University figured, well, let's see if it goes into fish feed. So aquaculture got its foot in the door, or its foot wet, in Kentucky based on that. Where we are today is we probably have about 30 or 40 growers. Right now we're on a largemouth bass farm, which is where some of these farms have found that their row crop production or some other agricultural production was not up to speed and not as competitive with economies of scale. So farmers have taken that land and made it into fish ponds. We can get 5,000 pounds of protein out of an acre.
What?
Raising fish
That
as
is
opposed
amazing.
to other row crops. Not saying that we don't need other row crops,
Right.
and a lot of that does go into fish feed, but it's not one of those exchanges of protein for protein. So that's why aquaculture is taken off. As far as a national and international, it is the fastest growing sector of agriculture today worldwide. We
Wow.
surpassed cattle production in 2012. So right now, aquaculture is the fastest sector of agriculture worldwide. 90% of the seafood consumed in the U.S. is imported. And 70% of that is farm raised somewhere in the world. We are farmers in the U.S. and we're farmers in Kentucky. Under that, we have a ton of regulations that some other countries don't always have. So, with that being said, if you want to ensure that you have a good, safe seafood source, it's best to buy local and it's best to buy the U.S. farm raised. Aquaculture has many, many sectors. We have food fish. We have shrimp that are being grown in Kentucky, both freshwater and marine, in old tobacco barns.
Really?
Yes.
That's amazing.
And one of the biggest growing sectors in Kentucky for aquaculture is what we call aquaponics, which is integrating plant production, which anybody who worked on a tobacco farm knows those float beds grew those tobacco plants for 1 million years. That's hydroponics. So we take hydroponics, which is growing plants in water, and we include the aquaculture sector to where the fish become the fertilizer for that system, and that's called aquaponics. A lot of high schools are using it because you can get some great educational benefit by setting up small systems and teaching not only the science, but biology, writing, math, and science skills to students of all levels.
Well, it sounds like to me aquaculture is a real win-win. It's safe, it's efficient, and it's sustainable. When we're looking to provide more food than we've ever had to provide with less resources, aquaculture seems like a great solution.
It is, and you might see around here, there's 24 ponds, I believe 24 acres with 14 ponds. These ponds, people might think, oh, all this water. But these ponds will not change water for probably 20 years.
Wow.
That water is its own little biofilter with good bacteria in there, breaking down those ammonias and nitrogen and the tough stuff for the fish to handle in its own little biosystem. So they're very healthy, good water quality, good feeding rates, and good management is all aquaculture needs. And we have one of the greatest farmers right here, Robert Mayer.
Well, let's introduce him.
I'm Robert Mayer here at Cox Creek, Kentucky. We've been doing fish aquaculture for about 21 years.
Wow.
Got started in 1999 through a grant program with Kentucky State University and have been doing it since.
What specifically drew you to aquaculture in the first place?
That's a long story. The pond behind me was an original old farm pond here. I built it the year I got married.
Oh.
And it was much smaller than it is now. And I like water. If you're on a farm, you like water. We used to irrigate out of it. So we made the pond bigger and bigger, and it's up to where it's at now. So in 1999, when KSU offered that grant, we had a couple of reservoirs that they ended up being used for, and they gave me those fish, and I put them there. I constructed a pond just for that at Cox Creek. I had a resource of water to depend on, not knowing anything about aquaculture, but I knew the basics. They had told me what I needed: water and feed and willpower. So we put that together and sold all those fish that first year, and it went well for us. So the second year we built another one and kept building like that.
That's an 18-month-old fish, right?
Right.
Ready for market?
Yep.
So that'll go into a live market, mostly ethnic, because they like to see the clarity of the eyes, the brightness of the gills, and the shininess of the scales.
So one of the big things we do here is actually produce oxygen. We raise fish, but we produce oxygen. You can't raise fish without oxygen.
So what Robert is excellent at is really creating a good environment for fish.
Right.
And in that environment, we have to have plankton, which is the bloom he mentioned, and the color of the water, which is our #1 production of oxygen. At night, plants respire. They take oxygen. So we have to make sure, which is the paddle wheels in the back, to make sure that water keeps circulating and there's a good level for those fish to make it through the night before the sunrise and that oxygen starts getting reproduced again. So one of the big things, a very important tool on every aquaculture farm is the oxygen meter. So we can tell if that oxygen dips below, it'll stress an animal. It might not kill it right away, but if fish are very stressed, they'll succumb to disease a lot quicker. And we want to avoid that at all costs. So this is a daily testing.
Right, water testing, yes.
So Robert will go through, or Kevin or somebody, and test that oxygen level, especially after a few cloudy days, to see where it is and make sure that we keep that oxygen level above whatever that fish species requires for minimizing stress. So you get little fish, about 2 inches long. You hold them in there and get them on feed trains. Bass are a carnivore, so they want to eat a high protein fish. They're used to in the wild just searching and eating those little bluegills or those little red air sunfish. They don't have that in these ponds, so we have to give them a complete diet with the right protein source, but we have to train them to take it as feed, not a swimming smaller fish. So that's that feed training stage, which is really important in a bass production system.
Yes.
Yes.
You got it.
Well, guys, thanks so much for joining us today to learn all about aquaculture and how important it is to Kentucky. I hope you enjoyed coming out here to the farm with us and that you will visit an aquaculture farm near you.